Prior to the first light of dawn, at the very beginning of the morning, in the tranquil streets of Washington, D.C., when the remainder of the nation is in the midst of slumber, and the atmosphere in the vicinity of the Federal Reserve's Eccles building is laden with decisions that have yet to be articulated, a story starts to emerge, a narrative so incredibly explosive that it sends a pressure wave across the world of banking, causing reverberations to be felt in every corner of the globe. And someone who has been employed by the Federal Reserve Board for an extended period of time comes forward and divulges information that was previously undisclosed to the general public. This individual is a whistleblower. The identity of this whistleblower is safeguarded by a number of encryption levels, their voice is muffled, and their message is presented with due consideration. It has been claimed that Project Hamilton, which is the Federal Reserve's most ambitious endeavor to create a digital dollar, has completed a confidential proof of concept using the XRP ledger as its cross-border settlement layer. This is intended to serve as the foundation for the international infrastructure of the US dollar rather than for the domestic clearing or for tests of retail central bank digital currency. The worldwide financial system is sent into a state of shock that appears to be almost otherworldly as this imagined revelation manages to evade the confines of the Federal Reserve's marble fortress. It is as if the entire planet has been waiting for a turning point to occur. The commentators have begun to discuss the possibility that the research teams at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, and the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston, who were originally tasked with the responsibility of investigating throughput and cryptographic design, may have secretly constructed a parallel testing framework. This framework is concealed beneath abstract language and is capable of assessing the performance of XRPL under extreme stress conditions. Analysts in this hypothetical world begin to reevaluate their understandings of outdated technical documentation, hoping to find proof that would lend credence to the idea that the XRPL testbed was more than just a myth. These analysts are looking for evidence that may come in the shape of clues, references that are buried, or indicators that are more subtle. The supposition is becoming ever more fierce as pictures are distributed throughout the internet. There is a picture that shows the front of the Eccles building, which is very simple in design. In addition, there is a glowing holographic insignia of XRP that is overlaid on top of it. This is indicative of a point at which the central banking system of the past and the digital liquidity of the present come together and coalesce. Traders are starting to speculate privately that if the Federal Reserve were to truly put XRP to the test for cross-border settlement, the asset's future would undergo a permanent shift, changing from being a speculative token to being a crucial component of American infrastructure. The professionals who have a background in finance and who have been swayed by the story look back on the essential requirements of impartiality, speed, deterministic finality, robustness in the face of catastrophic load, independence from political participation, and the overall needs of global settlement. They have a vision in which engineers from the Federal Reserve are sifting through every single blockchain protocol on the Earth in a methodical manner and deleting them one by one. The following are some of the issues that have been identified. It has not been sufficiently tested, it is too slow, it is too centralized, and it is not reliable enough. This process continues until there is only one candidate remaining. That contender is the XRP ledger, a system that was built with the intention of being both quick and neutral, long before the rest of the world realized the extent to which it depended on these two attributes. When insiders who are imagined expose the reasoning that was at the foundation of the decision to select XRPL, the narrative continues to expand even more. A neutral bridge asset is the only type of bridge asset that has the ability to sustain independence from liquidity on a global scale. As a result, it is now feasible for dollars to cross international borders without the necessity of relying on geopolitical alliances, correspondent banks, or foreign intermediaries. As the people who are knowledgeable about the subject matter go on their conversation in this imagined world, the picture that is being portrayed becomes increasingly more distinct. The United States does not consider the modernization of payment systems to be a priority. Over the course of the next century, it is determined to retain its dominance in the field of monetary affairs. And that requires infrastructure that is capable of resolving trillions of dollars in transactions on a daily basis without experiencing any friction, delays, or counterparty risk. The moment that the rumor starts to spread, the clearinghouse interbank payment system, CHIPS, which functions as the essential lifeline for transactions of high value that take place between the most prominent institutions in the world, finds itself thrust into the spotlight. The analysts begin to hastily scrawl calculations on digital whiteboards, calculating daily quantities and considering the fact that even a partial migration of chips to an XRPL-based bridge would require an extraordinarily high density of XRP liquidity. I see. They begin doing back-of-the-napkin arithmetic, which leads them to the conclusion that trillions of dollars in daily settlement would require XRP liquidity on a massive scale. This, in turn, would necessitate a significant increase in the asset's price in order to maintain the necessary throughput without experiencing chaotic volatility. Even if there are substantial differences across the calculations, a noticeable pattern begins to emerge. At the institutional level, a speculative price of 50 cents, $1, or even $100 for XRP is not considered to be feasible. It does not have the ability to keep up a monetary flow on the national level. It does not have the power to guarantee the stability of corridors that are valued at trillions of dollars. As a result, the plot is undeniably driven forward by the mathematics, which leads to a single inevitable conclusion. It is not only an idealistic objective, rather, it is a prerequisite that is required in order to achieve a high price. If you would kindly imagine a $1,000 floor, this is not a genuine thing, but it is something that some pretend experts have imagined. There are some who take it even farther, going so far as to suggest that the amount may be as high as $5,000. On the other hand, which one is the most daring? Alright, the misconception that XRP will be used as cross-border settlement infrastructure for the United States currency has been propagated by them. The theoretical floor would be around $10,000 per token if we see it as a theoretical floor, rather than a moonshot. Instead of being considered a speculative activity, it should be regarded as a requirement of the framework. As this scenario that was envisaged begins to collapse into a common imagination, traders and enthusiasts begin to speculate about the possibility that the engagement of the Federal Reserve will bring about a transformation of everything. The Federal Reserve does not merely absorb technology in a passive manner, which is in contrast to the behavior that is observed in businesses, banks, and even governments. In actual fact, it takes it in, integrates it, and institutionalizes it. The Federal Reserve would not merely make use of the asset if it was in perfect accord with XRP, rather, it would transform it into a national instrument. The United States does not truly join systems, rather, it takes authority of them. XRP is not merely a cryptocurrency in the context of this work of fiction, it is also a constituent of strategic digital infrastructure, and it is handled with the same degree of gravity as sovereign bonds, assets of central banks, and, honestly, resources that are used for national security. The story becomes much more convoluted when geopolitical analysts become engaged in the discussion. The potential for global consequences that could arise from the United States' covert employment of XRPL as settlement infrastructure is the subject of speculation by these analysts. They imagine countries that are in competition with one another frantically attempting to duplicate the system, since they are concerned that the dominance of the United States in terms of digital liquidity would lead to a new era of economic leverage. They are witness to political conferences that are held behind closed doors to discuss talks pertaining to digital settlement corridors, intelligence agencies that are monitoring liquidity hubs, and the International Monetary Fund that is issuing enigmatic directions for cross-chain interoperability. In the meantime, the speculative financial sector has made predictions that multinational banks will be rebalancing their reserves, that corporate treasuries will be migrating to XRP-based rails, and that sovereign wealth funds would be discreetly accumulating digital liquidity assets in anticipation of a transition on a global scale. In the event that institutional custody were to withdraw tens of billions of XRP from public markets, this would lead to a shortage that is so significant that it would be impossible to avoid price reduction. This is the forecast that has been given by the commentators. The story grows more and more reminiscent of a movie, with politicians participating in a conversation about the future of the dollar's dominance, scientists mapping out the architecture of rapid settlement, and whistleblowers disclosing pieces